Right now, we're actually in a better competitive advantage because e-commerce stores are killing Sears, are killing Kmart, are killing
Literally.
Walmart, are killing Main Street and retail stores. And so the reason is because, like I said before, we don't have the bureaucracy. We can test concepts, we can cut concepts. We don't have big, bloated infrastructure that we have to carry. We can move quick, think quick, test quick, scale quick, cut back quick, and move on quick.
Yeah.
That's something that was unprecedented. And there's never been a time in mankind where the common person, somebody like me, I didn't even graduate high school. I never definitely went to college, where I'm running a multi-million-dollar business from my apartment. And I'm running circles around some of these big brands right now and these big companies because they just can't keep up with the creativity and the speed of implementation that my company has.
Hello and welcome to the Robust Marketer. Today I am lucky to have Ronnie Sandlin, the founder and operator of the School of Hidden Knowledge, a education platform that teaches, among other things, oh, we lost him. He's
Sorry.
back.
I
He's
actually
back.
didn't fall, just my webcam. Don't be
Nice.
alarmed.
No worries. He's all good. He has a medic alert bracelet just in case.
Yes.
But he teaches the hidden knowledge is essentially it's affiliate marketing, entrepreneurial knowledge, but it's also it's about the hidden drivers that make people behave in certain ways and want certain things. And it's the stuff that you may not always think about. And it's a way that you can think about reaching your customer in sort of in a fairly profound way from what I've come across. So thanks for coming on the podcast today, Ronnie. How you doing?
Sure. Great. Thank you for having me, Eric. I'm stoked. I love the stuff that you guys put up. I love the podcast. I'm excited and humbled that you have invited me here.
Yeah, well, when I first got into the space, and I was just kind of looking around there, I think I reached out early on, right when I was getting started, and I kind of saw what you were up to, and knew that you were. So, talk a little bit about what you're doing in this space. You're an independent affiliate, and but you've also got this school. So run us through your hero's journey, basically.
All right. Well, yeah. So totally. So I started like most people, struggling. Knowing that there's a lot of money to be made online, unsatisfied with any career prospects that I had. I actually never went to college, so I was in boiler rooms and sales after sales job. Very unhappy. Typical before and after affiliate. And experimented with quite a few things. And I remember a point in my life where I was like, if I could just figure out how to make 5 grand a month online, I would be the happiest guy in the world. And that's funny to me now to think of like how short I was selling myself. But my big aha moment and my kind of when I felt like I started really fulfilling that hero's journey arc was when I woke up one morning and I had written an advertorial. And this is what got me in my copywriting journey, really just going deep into this journey. Uh-oh, it's happening again. Not an earthquake, guys. Everything's okay. Okay, so basically I woke up and I wrote an advertorial, went to sleep. Okay, well, I launched it that morning, then went to sleep because it was kind of one of those paper call things where you have to wake up early, call center thing. Anyway, I'd made $1,000 when I had woken up, and I'd never made more than like $200 or $300 online. And that was the big aha moment for me where I was like, man, there's this copywriting thing and understanding how to get inside that person's head and understand who your prospects are. There's so much more to this than I was even aware of. And it really brought me down the rabbit hole and beyond the hero's journey, more into a rabbit hole of how deep persuasion and influence goes and how little of it is being taught in our industry right now and how powerful it is and how powerful it's been for me and the people I've shared this information with.
Very cool. Now, as far as heroes' journeys go, I'm watching a lot of Moana these days, and I know that because I've got a 3-year-old and she's obsessed with it. But I know that sometimes you have to go into the realm of monsters to complete your hero's journey. So it doesn't sound like it's
Absolutely.
out of the normal here. So just let's talk a little bit about what some of that hidden knowledge is. Like, what is it? What is it that allows you to get inside, or what are some of the tactics you use essentially to get inside your consumer's head when you're trying to write copy for them? I came across some of your stuff where you were talking about A lot of traditional people talk about features and benefits. You really just got to hammer features and benefits. But I feel like what you advocate is going at least one or two levels deeper than that, even not just like, hey, you don't need you don't always need a hammer. You need a hole. And the question is, why do you need that hole? Like, why, you go even further to talk about like the why and like what are people's pain points? What are people's insecurities, for instance? What are some of the tactics you use to dig deep?
Well, there's already there's these systems that work. So going back to what you said was actually very insightful and profound, where you said you have to go and fight the monster, become the hero. Where there's actually this scene in Star Wars that I'm gonna show you how this all ties in. But there's a scene in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker and Yoda go to this cave, and Yoda says, "You're not ready," and he goes in and he says, "You're gonna go fight your biggest monster." And Luke Skywalker goes in, and it's Darth Vader, but it's like kind of this dream sequence. We've all seen this sequence, and he kills Darth Vader, and he takes off the mask, and it's himself, which is such an allegory for our biggest monster and our biggest person that we have to defeat is ourself in order to continue this journey. But also, once you understand how powerful those symbolisms are and how powerful stuff like that can be when you embed that in your copy, that is extreme power, and that I use when putting my copy together. And I use a lot of Jung's work, Carl Jung's work, and the people that have gone after Jung, his students, such as not Edward Bernays, Joseph Campbell, who wrote Hero with a Thousand Faces. You can just read Hero with a Thousand Faces, and if you apply that in your methodology in writing copy and even vertical discovery, there's so much money to be made, because now you're understanding this psychological journey that goes on in people's minds that makes it irresistible. If, like, for example, the flashlight. Who knew a flashlight was going to be such a breakthrough product in our industry? But it was that person that was able to put that two and two together and say, protect your family. And it became not a tool anymore that everyone had. Everyone has a flashlight. It became a survival mechanism.
A lightsaber, even.
A lightsaber, a tool, a weapon, a way to protect your family and yourself. That person that created that copy was tapping into that very, very deep level seated stuff in our brain. It's irresistible. It's like he took a blue chip product, a product that, quite frankly, everyone already had in their garage already, and made it everyone buy 2 or 3 more of them at an extremely high price. So that's how powerful this stuff is. And the thing is, because so many affiliates have just scratched the surface of the power of this, they're just a photocopy of a photo. They know that the tactical flashlight works, but they don't know the psychology behind why the tactical flashlight works. And once you understand the psychology, you can make anything work. You can make toilet paper. You can make toothbrush. You can make, the whole industry is open for this type of strategies. And that's what makes me so excited.
Yeah. Now, you threw off a whole lot of stuff there. So first of all, for people that aren't familiar with Joseph Campbell, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are, but like when I start these podcasts by talking about the hero's journey, that's specifically what that's about. It's about this idea that in order to the idea is that every person is on their own journey in which they are the hero, and there are certain archetypal things along that journey that you sort of have to do. You have to at one point you have to face your father. You have to sort of like, and maybe, or it's like Pinocchio, and you have to redeem your father. You have to go to the bottom of the ocean and to the belly of a whale. And,
absolutely.
And so, when we talk about Campbell, or I know Jung, I'm really interested in, as well as Jordan Peterson is someone I
love Jordan Peterson.
I've been listening to a lot, and he really understands the power of these archetypes as well. And you also threw off another really interesting one, who's another one of mine.
Lord.
Oh, good
okay,
Lord.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was just going to stop fucking with it.
You also threw off Edward Bernays. Now, he's a school of Freud. He's from the school of Freud. He's actually Freud's nephew. And to me, it's the most interesting story in all of public relations, probably in all of, one of the most interesting stories in all of modern culture. And it's this idea that Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, took Freud's theories over to America and started the world's first PR firm. And his 2 examples that always come to mind that I think about were how he just super manipulative, how he was, cigarette companies came to him and said, women aren't smoking. It's taboo for them to smoke. And he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tie cigarettes to the suffragette movement. When women were fighting for the right to vote, we're going to organize, we're going to orchestrate this event where all these women march through the streets for their own rights, and we're going to have all the news cameras out there. And then at the end of it all, they're going to light their torches of freedom. And they lit up their smokes, and it was this phallic symbol of power. And it totally changed the idea of women smoking in the United States to where it became avant-garde and cool for women to do that. The other one was Duncan Hines cakes weren't selling because they came up with this new instant line, and housewives at the time were feeling that it was cheating. They couldn't get away with just making a cake not from scratch. And so Edward Bernays said to them, make them add an egg. And they're like, but we don't need to add an egg. It's already in the cake. He's like, just have them add the egg. Yeah. And that was the Freudian aspect of adding their egg to this thing. And it's really amazing when you dig under the surface, what you can find.
It's that's why I said it's a rabbit hole that once you go, like for me, once I started just going deep into it, I was like, do we even have free choice? Like those types of questions, I started asking myself, because it's like, wow, there's so much of my life personally that I was affected by because some person was making money and profiting off of my emotions and insecurities and fears and all these things. So it's also good to know these things to protect yourself and to understand how powerful this type of marketing is, because I don't see anyone talking about it. I don't see anyone talking about it, especially on this kind of like Machiavellian level.
No, as it relates to marketing and as it relates to the society that we live in now as well, right? Like we live in a world, like if we're talking about these occulted tactics of archetypal manipulation and things like that, you don't think there's some underground lab somewhere in different, you know what I mean?
Like Disney, there was a reason why Pixar and Disney and there's so many companies, they already know this. This is not something they're telling everyone, because it kind of, once you tell people, once you tell people your strategy, your secrets, they have defenses against it now, and it becomes less effective. So Disney's doing this on all their biggest Disney movies. They're using these very, very strong psychological tactics. And all these big brands, are doing it. And not onto the level that we can do it now, because they're so held back by political correctness and like the corporate bureaucracy, that now is the best time than ever to utilize these strategies without any form of like bureaucratic restriction or any form of actual like reprimand from like a boss or getting fired or having some political correct machine coming after you.
Like Kendall Jenner's Pepsi commercial that brought the world down on them, on the sugar water company.
Absolutely.
And we're in a position too where we can test out these tactics and we can have results within 2 hours. We can say, yep, that worked way better, or no,
Absolutely.
And it is a great time to be alive for a marketer, for sure. And it's the same thing. It's like we talk about Big Brother. We talk about Big Brother in the data, this and that. But it's also an era where we have full access to this data on Facebook as marketers as well, in order to try to elevate yourself, in a way that you gives yourself freedom, financial freedom, career freedom, all these things. You can actually, the oracle is kind of turned over to us at this time, and who knows if that'll be the case forever.
Well, right now it is. That's why I tell people we have that window of opportunity, because right now we're actually in a better competitive advantage, because e-commerce stores are killing Sears, are killing Kmart, are killing Walmart, are killing Main Street and retail stores. And so the reason is because, like I said before, we don't have the bureaucracy. We can test concepts, we can cut concepts. We don't have big, bloated infrastructure that we have to carry. We can move quick, think quick, test quick, scale quick, cut back quick, and move on quick. Yep. That's something that was unprecedented. And there's never been a time in mankind where the common person, somebody like me, I didn't even graduate high school. I definitely went to college, where I'm running a multi-million-dollar business from my apartment, and I'm running circles around some of these big brands right now and these big companies, because they just can't keep up with the creativity and the speed of implementation that my company has.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, because I've talked with Direct Whitman about copywriting, and he's the features and benefits. He's the Dr. Direct. And you talk with people who everyone has their own spin on how they're teaching things. How did you settle on this idea of the school of hidden knowledge, this sort of like occulted aspect of hidden knowledge? Like why did you go this approach, and how did you, it's obviously working. But how did you hit on it?
Well, for me, it was like this stuff is hidden. There's not people teaching it. For me, there wasn't like I have. If you go look at my library, I have like stuff like evolutionary, psychology. I have all of Joseph Campbell's books. I have The Power of Myth, the anatomy of a psyche. This isn't stuff I learned in marketing books. This is stuff I've put together from very, very high these sources that are esoteric and are collegiate, are hard to digest and hard to process. But once I was able to understand it, I've spent the past decade of my life reading these books and understanding it and applying it to my own brain. And once I applied that to marketing, I realized this is hidden knowledge. This is very, very hidden knowledge. And there's not to say features and benefits they're not powerful, because
And they have their
powerful.
place. Yeah.
They have their place. And I'll tell you exactly where their place is. There's 3 different brains inside the human brain. This is a theory called the triune brain theory. So there's the reptilian part of the brain, the mammalian part of the brain, and then the human, the neocortex part of the brain, which is the newest part of the brain. It's the newest part. It's obviously human beings are very new to the evolutionary chain. So the oldest part is the reptilian part, because we sprung from the reptiles, evolutionary speaking. So that's fight or flight. That's protect your family. That's why the tactical flashlight was so powerful and impactful, because it was speaking to the reptilian part of the brain. Now, the brain that's the second part that's powerful, because obviously we were from reptile to mammal, and we've been mammals longer than we were humans, in the evolutionary timeline. So if you speak to that brain, that's where you're talking about acceptance, tribal acceptance, pack acceptance, hierarchy. Okay. So that's when you're talking about the BMWs, the Bentleys, the Mercedes, Mercedes, the Louis Vuitton, those types of high brands that speak to those types of acceptance, status. Yeah. And that's why you see so much power in that type of stuff. And then you see the lowest level form of marketing, which is features and benefits, which is talking to the human part, which is the logic and reason, which is the least powerful part of our brain. Our whole brain is governed by emotions and fight or flight and this reptilian part. But we have this relatively new part of our brain. But the problem is that this is how marketers are marketing. We're saying features and benefits. We're saying, this flashlight has 15 lumens and it has an on and off. It's like nobody gives a fuck. It's like they care about whether or not the right flashlight to protect their family.
Yeah.
But that's what features and benefits are for me. But there is, and how I structure it is I hit them with the emotions first. I hit them with the tribal acceptance second, and then I hit them with a few features and benefits, because they've got to go through there's Antonio Damasio talks about this. He's a neuroscientist, and he talks about how decision making goes through the emotional part of our brain first. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm butchering this explanation. He has a book called Descartes' Error. Antonio Damasio, got to read it. And he talks about how all of our decision making is processed through the emotional part of our brain. So we can't even make a decision. In fact, there's people with brain damage that have that part of their brain damage that can't even make a logical decision if it hasn't passed through that emotional part of their brain yet. It's meaning that if we're not hitting them on an emotional level, we're failing. We're failing big time, and we're not going to get the conversion. And when it relates to how it affects us directly and what we do, we're not going to get the conversions. We're not going to get the profit. We're not going to be able to scale, and we're not going to be eating sushi and fucking making big stacks of cash like we all like to do in this industry.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
That's really, really, really interesting. And yeah, Descartes, like I was really into Descartes when I was in school, and the idea of the brain in the vat, essentially. The I think, therefore I am. I think like a sopalistic sort of worldview, where it's like we are, that it's also like a simplified version of the Matrix, which is the idea that all of this is some sort of simulation, and for all we know,
have you read Bouliard?
Who?
Have you read Simulacra? Bouliard?
No.
Bro, you got to read that book. It's basically like Plato's The Cave
Yep.
on steroids. And you got to read. It's basically how everything that we have in our world is just a symbol of a symbol. And we don't hunt anymore. We go and like buy prepackaged food from the supermarket, and how we're so far removed from the actual real world. And that's where the base of the Matrix comes from. That's one of the books that influenced the actual Matrix is Bouliard, a lot of Bouliard's work. And he talks about how we're just a simulation of we're a photocopy of photocopy of a real actual civilization. And how if we understand that as marketers, we can tap so far deep into the mind that we're fucking making so much fucking money. Dude, I'm like, the reason why I'm not making 100 million a year is just simply like cash flow at this point. It has nothing to do with like anything beyond that. It's just like we're just printing money at this point once we figured it out.
Super, super interesting. So you gotta go through these various levels. You gotta sort of plumb the depths.
You don't mind if I smoke weed, do you?
Yeah, no, that's
Little bud. It's a good conversation. I'm
it
having
is.
a good time here.
Get right. Oh, I wish I don't have my one hitter on me. It's out in my bag there. But let's just jump tracks just because you forced the issue here. Let's talk a little bit about. I heard through some friends. A lot of people I know are experimenting with microdosing. A lot of people are experimenting with tweaking their chemistry in certain ways in order to sort of optimize their behavior. I'll enjoy my weed, and I don't know. It's also like I'm in Victoria, BC, where there's as many, there's more or less Starbucks than there are dispensaries here in Victoria. And is it legal in Nevada as well?
Yeah, it's super legal here. It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so what do you like? How does it relate to your marketing creativity, or is it something you leverage, or is it just something you like to do?
Yeah. Well, I smoke a lot of weed for relaxation. Some people do, I'm not saying to do it or not to do it. I know that almost every marketer I know smokes a lot of weed. I don't think that's a coincidence. And then as for the microdosing, I'm on and off about it. I don't see huge differences in it. I just like the idea of it. I do more of like actual dosing of acid, and that's fun. And I've got some good insights. Yeah, I love that. I'm a big and not so much anymore. Like I used to, but I've done a lot of acid and, shrooms and DMT and ecstasy. And maybe I shouldn't even keep going, but I've done it all and I love it all. And I think each of it has its place and shouldn't be frowned down upon necessarily, as long as you're responsible and do it with the right setting. I love it. I think that it expands consciousness. It's helped me think about things in a different way. I clearly am quite an eccentric person, and I think that's part of it was because I've done a lot of these mind expanding, drugs that have helped me kind of see the world from a different filter and a different lens. That's the best way to describe it. It just kind of gives you a different lens or a filter, like an Instagram filter. And you're like, dude, that's a cool way of seeing the world. It's the same world. It's just a different way of looking at it.
In a way, to me, I keep trying to put this together in words, but it's like we have these ideas that there are these hidden powers, that there are these, there is a way of viewing the universe that is above the material or below the material sense of the world. And it's almost like drugs in a way clue you into that in a way that allow you to sort of access it going forward. It allows you to access that mindset. It allows you to access that level of archetype in a way that maybe you couldn't if you were sober.
Yeah, there's so many layers. Even the understanding the layers of how the brain works, that's mind expanding. There's so many ways of expanding your mind. And I feel like that goes back to the hidden knowledge. There's so few people talking about this. Now there is more and more, and I think that's great. But it's something that I think we should be excited, especially in our and as marketers. Like, we're not robots. This is what's going to keep us competitive as automation takes over, is our ability to keep expanding our consciousness and our ability to think way outside these different reality patterns. Because all artificial intelligence I can do right now, as of now, is work within these environments that we've already established. But when machines aren't dropping acid, not yet, not until
strong AI drops acid. That would be a trip.
Dude, well, the book, The Age of Spiritual Machines, I have the Raker's Wild, The Singularity is Near. Oh, here it is. The Age of Spiritual Machines. That's the one you got to read. Where maybe machines will be dropping acid. They may be our future religious leaders. We may be worshiping. It's not there yet. And until then, that's how I would stay creative, is just doing these things that are going to help me. I see them as exercises that help me stay looking at the world a different way. And I think that is what makes us above average in what we do.
I think it's also, I think it's important to like have a healthy amount of respect for them. When you drop acid when you're in high school or do mushrooms when you're in high school, it's this wild sort of like hedonistic trip kind of thing. But I feel like intentionality is really important as you get older, when you tap into these things, that you really sort of have something in mind as to why you're doing it, what you hope to get out of it. And treat it with a healthy dose of respect, because they're extremely powerful substances.
Absolutely. Well, you got to be careful, because with anything, with alcohol, with too much caffeine, too much Red Bull, if you do it too much, you can hurt yourself, hurt other people. And that's what gives the whole thing a bad reputation and bad. If you do it and you do your research and you know your dosage and you do it in a safe space and you're not doing it as a way to, there's restrictions, limitations. As long as you know yourself, I think experiment away. Go to Burning Man is a good place to do it. Go to these, transformative festivals all around the world that's happening. And I think you're going to find some great people. And the good thing is most of these people, like you go to Burning Man, you're going to run into a $1 billion, $1 million, multi-million-dollar business owner. Like there's a reason why high level people do that type of stuff.
Yeah. And so what do you think? This is a broad question, but what do you think's going down right now? So I've been listening to some podcasts right now. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about Vegas. I've been trying to parse what's going on with this situation in Vegas right now. And I was listening to one last night that was talking a lot about the context about what's happening in Vegas and literally like how receipts across the board in Vegas are down right now. That like these traditional sort of even these giant casino conglomerates are feeling the pinch that Sears is feeling, and that like that these big established companies are like, it's like as people wake up in certain ways, the old institutions are losing some of their potency. Is that something that you're feeling, in the United States? What are you feeling on the ground in Vegas? Like what's the mindset there?
Well, I see Vegas is popping right now. I love Vegas. I see it as like it's come back, is my opinion. But overall, where I see like shit's going down is, first off, people don't have the buying power because we have millennials that are trapped in student loan debt. So, I mean, I think that if we didn't, like Generation Xers had like maybe $10,000 that they were unlucky in student loan debt, and we have millennials with $100,000 plus in student loan debt. So they just simply can't even go to Vegas and enjoy themselves, which is unfortunate. And so I think what we're going to see is these old institutions crumble. So we're going to see the education institutions like universities, these old school, traditional, well-established industry. We're going to see places like
postmodernist.
We're going to see that crumble. Yeah, postmodern. We're going to see that crumble. We're going to see non-traditional stuff flourish, like non-traditional business, non-traditional e-commerce. Businesses like us that aren't traditional, you can't put your finger on us. You can't, sum us up in one textbook. And so what's going to be happening is we have to change. We can't just keep putting a whole generation of students into student loan debt for jobs that don't exist and will never exist anymore. And until that implosion happens and we can restructure our society, like we're going to be the titans of the new world. And right now is our opportunity to like stack and grow. So when the economy does collapse, which it will collapse soon, we're in a position to actually expand our wealth by buying hard assets. That's why I tell like internet marketers that are making over $1 million a year, don't be a fuck boy and buy a Bentley. Like stack your money, buy assets, buy apartment complexes, be prepared.
Now, when you say the crash is coming, are you saying like 2008, or you're saying like no, like an actual system reset, like because 2008 was a blip, really?
2008 was not a system
reset. It was wealth transfer. It was another giant wealth transfer to the from the middle class up, basically. I feel like,
right. Well,
and it pushed people further down into the margins, pushed the 1% higher. Or the 0.10001% potentially higher. But what do you forecast? You're thinking that we're headed to something much more serious than 2008.
I mean, the numbers are on the wall. We have $1.9 trillion in student loan debt. We have baby boomers that can't read. They simply don't have the money to retire. They're working until they die. We have the auto industry that's collapsing because of rideshare. We don't have people buying cars like we used to. You can't afford them anyway. We have traditional education collapsing. We have Dodd-Frank that just got so basically they're about to ease up on lending regulation, which just like what happened right before the housing market collapse, we had 4 or 5 years of credit glut, which is just about to open up, and I see it opening up right now. It's not looking good. We don't have home ownership at a high rate. I mean, there's nothing about the economy that signals a very strong, healthy automation's taking jobs.
Except the stock market, right? Like the stock market is soaring.
Well, the stock market's soaring because so many of these companies are leveraging automation and laying off employees and seeing record profits.
And concentrating wealth further up.
So I wouldn't see that as an indicator of a strong economy. I would see, what's going on with millennials. If you talk to the average millennial, they're living at home. There's $60,000 in student loan debt. and they have no, they're 30 years old and they have no savings. So
Not a recipe for a new golden era.
no, I don't think so.
And
I think it's going to be a golden era for guys like us that are non-traditionalists, that are able to see the patterns on the wall, that are able to build systems, build online businesses, accumulate wealth, and then use that time of this next great recession that's going to hit and use that time to consolidate our wealth. But if you're going to be a fuckboy about your money, yachts and travel, like I love travel, I love doing this, but like there's like, I've seen a lot of people that just spend their money like it's no tomorrow, which I've done it before. I love spending my money, but I do see it as a time to conserve, build wealth, buy apartment complexes, buy stuff that's going to be wealth enhancing. And then, when they all shit breaks loose, we're fucking balling, or all of us will be balling in this industry. I see it as like, this is the best industry to be in.
And that's what people do in crises too. I was just reading an article, an entrepreneur, Tom Rizra. I just connected with him, and he wrote an article specifically about like when the world is falling apart. That's when the smart people buy. They make money on the buying,
I'm
not
ready.
on the selling at that point. Yeah,
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready. Like I'm not trying to sound like a carpetbagger, but I'm fucking ready for this collapse, man. Yeah.
interesting. So what else do you have on the go here? Like what are you building towards right now? You're also running straight up affiliate campaigns as well? What's your favorite traffic source these days?
I love Facebook. I mean, I love YouTube. We're doing a lot of YouTube. We're doing a lot of Instagram. We're doing a lot of Facebook. Those are our three main things that we run. But Facebook's big data. As long as you stay compliant, you can leverage their big data algorithm, and it's just incredible. I think it's one of the creme de la creme traffic sources available to us right now.
Cool. What I wanted to ask you another. A term that keeps popping up in my feed all the time right now. I actually ended up on a big thread on it yesterday. What does the term red pill mean to you?
Oh man, that's a loaded question because everyone has their definition of what red pill. I just think that means just being. To me, it just means being aware.
Woke.
Just being aware, just being woke, just staying woke
Woke
to
AF.
like the system. Like understand the system's not your friend, the government's not your friend. Nah, the only person that's gonna be you're taking care of you is you. And to me, being woke is just building systems and building wealth.
Yeah.
And so I have no person that be held accountable except for me. And to me, that's the ultimate sign of woke, because there's a lot of people that say they're woke, but their sign of woke is being a victim of circumstance, and that's not my definition of woke.
That's interesting. I wanted to ask you, where do you like? I'm not necessarily a political, like where you stand on the political standpoint, but what do you make from this perspective we've been speaking about of Trump? Do you feel like Trump is someone who is putting a gears in the machine, or putting a wrench in the machine that has been churning along for years and years and years, or is he just another layer? Is he like a destabilizing element that's sort of like in the system, and he's sort of part of the way the system wants to go? Or what's your read on Trump? I'm curious.
Well, Trump is just he's a joker. He's a wild card. Not joker in the sense of like he's like a clown.
The archetype.
More like he's the archetype of the wild card. I'm not saying he's good or bad, but like at the end of the day, no one person understands this economy. If anyone's going to tell you they're going to fix the economy, they're going to bring jobs back. How are you going to bring jobs back? How are you going to bring all of them being automated? The bottom line is like you can't. I just listen to that. I see Trump as he's funny. He's a funny guy. He like cuts through the shit of the political clutter. I like that about him. At the end of the day, I don't see him as any type of savior or any type of leader that I'm going to be like, I'm going to follow that person as like my end all, resource of how to live my life. Like the guy's just a character. I think he realizes that the presidential role, you don't really have a lot of power, and he
Except
plays
to nuke.
it up. He can nuke, but like, at the end of the day, that's like, that is true. That is kind of weird. We do have a kind of a weird way that we distribute power here in America. I don't know. I can't change that. All I know is I can change myself. I'm going to move to Puerto Rico, get that 4% tax rate. I don't think anyone's going to nuke Puerto Rico. I just try to stay neutral and just pump my cash. You know what I mean? Let other people argue and be broke.
Yeah. Now, I like that. So we talked a little bit about this, but in your mind, give me some. So if you're trying to market shit in America, like what is this sort of like? So say you're trying to market to middle America right now. You're trying to not you're not trying to market. I try to market to marketers essentially, but you're trying to market to the huddled masses, the people coming up, the young people who are
Yeah.
disillusioned. What in your mind, like what mindset are you attributing to them? I guess there's probably lots of different ones depending on what you're, but like give me an overall picture of what of some of the things you're trying to tap into if you're trying to market to the youth of America right now.
Okay. Well, I think the average person has like 0.75 best friends. That's like something I don't quote, but something around that. It's like really sad. But what I do is whatever vertical that I'm going into, I will spend 2 days, 2 to 3 days going into like watching YouTube videos, describe like for example, I made a couple $1 million in student debt. So I must have spent like 36 hours. Um, it's maybe probably more like 100 hours watching just YouTube videos of people describing their struggle with student debt. So they're like, I just would my struggle student debt like on YouTube, and people have like their vlogs or whatever. They're like day 1 of my struggle, day 40 of my, whatever. And I would watch those, take notes, and really start to understand the vernacular that they use, the type of person they are, their struggles. So like student debt, for example, like they couldn't move out of their parents' home, they couldn't buy a car, they couldn't own a home, 50% of their paychecks going to a student loan bill. Their job that they have was probably they could have gotten without the degree, and they're miserable and they don't see any way out of this debt. So like, obviously that's kind of an easier one, but every industry has their major pain points that if you really focus on that vertical and on that industry, then, even something like solar, these people have specific pain points and specific things that you can really, really get into and understand about that consumer and put that in your copy. So to answer your question, I know it's like there's not one broad stroke way of describing middle America, because I think what the internet has done has created hyper partisanship. So like there's no such thing as middle America anymore. There's just people that are online that are getting on these online groups, becoming hyper conservative, hyper liberal, hyper libertarian, hyper, republic, all these things. And if you tap into those little demographics pockets and understand those tribal things that they do, so going into the mammalian part of their brain, then you'll make a lot of money. Yeah.
And then there's this whole other group of people, these like disaffected, like the
Yeah.
disaffected youth that have sort of slipped into a form of nihilism, I almost feel like. And that's,
Right.
I'm on Reddit all the time, and I feel like those are the dank people, the ones making wild memes and, like playing around with racism because it's provocative. And even though they're probably
Right.
not racist, but they're throwing
Right.
around sort of, that's like where the frog kind of comes from. It's sort of, it's amazing the way communication is evolving so rapidly. And people are sort of getting so detached from meaning in a lot of different ways. It's funny, the hyperpartisanship is happening, and it's happening right alongside this weird disillusion. I feel like in America and the world right now, there's a high degree of cognitive dissonance. I feel like there's people who are sort of having in their daily life to hold very different ideas of the way the world works. It's like they see that the old models aren't working. They don't quite know what the new ways are. I feel it's a really strange time to be alive.
Yeah, well, we have our own hyperpartisanship within our industry. We have our own, way of talking, CPM, CPLs, our own thing, affiliates, we do our own thing, that stack that money and I stack all this stuff. We have our terms. And I think that our industry that we're in a very good community. We're in a very good tribe. I don't see there's a better tribe out there to be involved in. And as long as we stay in our, stay in this industry, in my opinion, I think all of us are good. Unfortunately, I see it's going to be suffering for a lot of other people, but the good thing is for us, it won't be.
Yeah, I think I think there's and putting ourselves in positions, especially to be leaders and trainers, to help bring people in, to this sort of new paradigm. I think it's probably a pretty good position to be in. Now, one of the things that we walk the line on is the difference between sort of like skills-based training and biz-op. And I know in order to make real money, you have to be able to take your product and you have to be able to take it to the general market. You have to have ways, a lot of our marketing is we call in-group marketing, because it's basically like people know STM, people know Affiliate World Conferences, they know us because of them, and we're kind of getting in their face a lot. But like, how do you walk that line in terms of the biz op versus like skills training?
Okay, because that's a tough one, because we're an industry that, people want. It's got to be a little combination of both. People want the skills based training, but at the same time, if you just give them a skill, it's not the best way of training. Like Elon Musk has a very, very good philosophy on education, where he says somebody needs to see a working model first, before they actually conceptually understand how that functions. So like you can't expect somebody to build an engine just by researching the concepts behind it. They need to see how
A
the actual
car,
working the work, yeah, and like pick it apart and break it.
probably a Ferrari.
Yeah, well, probably for yeah. And so I think that like it's a tough because we got to draw. There's a lot of like bad business opportunities. There's a lot of bad opportunities out there, just straight up just scammers. We'll call it what it is. And I think that like what you guys do is such a high level quality of education. And that's hard to do because the industry is moving so quickly. What you put out today isn't necessarily going to work tomorrow.
Hmm.
So, going back to BizOp versus what was it? BizOp versus the
Skills based training.
skills based
Yeah,
training. It's hard to look at it from the lens of either. It's kind of,
yeah,
we have to invent this kind of new way of training. I see it as like mastermind,
yep.
and this type, I don't know if there is a word for it. I wouldn't call it BizOp. I wouldn't call it a skills based training either.
It's not,
And
and it's not a money making system
it's
either
not a money
necessarily,
making system.
but it is a
Yeah,
hybrid of that. And I realize that having
right.
done the amount of webinars we've done at this point, and having done the cold traffic funnels that we're building, like you have to be able to dangle the vision. First of all,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
have to dangle the vision of what it's like, and we're privileged because we've been in this industry for a while and we've seen it transform people's lives. We've had it transform our own lives in different ways. So it's not like we're not coming from a false prophet type position. Like we actually we see this shit work all the time and we're living it.
Totally.
But yeah, I find it's an interesting line to walk for sure.
Yeah, and this is a new paradigm. It's new. It's obviously the old ways of viewing education doesn't work anymore. And we're on the forefront of inventing a new way of education, a new way of knowledge transfer, and a new way of creating a system to actually teach people real stuff that works, that isn't just theories that are a photocopy of a photocopy that some professor that drives a Volvo is trying to show in a PowerPoint presentation to a bunch of stoned, you know, 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
So it's new. We're pioneers in a way in that sense. And some people don't like the whole guru thing. I get a lot of guru hate, and I get it. There's a lot of shit out there. But at the same time, I think the best way of doing it is supporting the good training, like the stuff that you guys put out, and like supporting that, and like creating a real community around quality training, and then making it harder barrier of entry for just the bad stuff to come in and make the actual quality education in this industry look bad. Because bottom line, people need education. You can't just expect people not to have education. They're hungry for it. Somebody's going to provide it. It's either going to be somebody that provides great education or somebody that is providing subpar, scam, crap education. And we need to fill that upper void in that marketplace. It's just what it comes down to.
And you touched on it too. A community is such a big part of it. I was out. I played ball hockey every week, and I was out with my friends last night. And they work different jobs. Some of them are middle managers. Some of them are in government. Some of them are landscapers or whatever. But I was like recounting my day, and it was like, well, I spent an hour reading up on this, and then I engaged the community in a forum and had like 30 people respond to me, and we had a dialogue back and forth about something. And like it's easy to take the community that we have for granted, but the
Totally.
people that you meet in this business who are all striving for self-improvement, they're all striving to improve their businesses, they're all taking it fully upon themselves. They're not waiting for a promotion necessarily. They're creating this out of nothing. It's been a huge eye opener for me, and especially this jump that I've made into this sort of the iStack family, working with the STM crew and all the people I'm meeting through this. It's really privileged. And I also like have a daily ping pong rival with like my the guy that I've hired here, Andrew, to do our marketing. And it's like, they're like, you play, like, what is your job title? You get to play ping pong for, a
That's
little bit.
awesome.
I'm like, you just got to get up and move around, right? You got to like,
Yeah, totally.
so here's my most important question. What are you going to be for Halloween?
I'm not George Lopez, I think. Try that one out.
That's so. What are you going to do? Are you just going to rip off other people's jokes, or?
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna,
I like
wear
it.
suits. Yeah.
Very cool.
I look like George Lopez. So
Oh,
I
I get
pull
it.
up.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do Stone Cold Steve Austin, let himself go. That's what I'm
Oh,
gonna do.
so cold. Are you gonna do suck it? Are you gonna go around saying suck
I'm gonna
it?
say suck it. I'm gonna be drinking like I gotta get Keystone Light,
I
and
don't
I'm gonna
know,
just
bro.
be
With all the Weinstein shit going around, dude.
just all
Dude,
these institutions are crumbling, right? All
they're
these
crumbling. Yeah.
it is a wild time.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
what's our final words to people? We want to urge people to go out there and explore the archetypal things that kind of live below the surface. Think about the brain in with these three different ways, from the reptilian brain to the mammalian brain to the neocortex, and have your marketing kind of permeate right down to that level.
Yeah, in a nutshell, people always ask me what books. I'm gonna get this question. I know, so I 100 times. So, read anything by Carl Jung. Read anything by Edward Bernays. Read anything by Ogilvy on advertising. And I think you'll be good. And also, Joseph Campbell. And then you can even watch Joseph Campbell has some great stuff like Shuktavi or whatever. I can't remember. It's
Oh, I
on
don't know that one.
Amazon. It's like a DVD. You could actually watch Joseph Campbell DVDs on Amazon or watch his lectures. Good stuff. And just jump in. We have a life is too short to get rich slow, and we're in a gifted in a privileged industry, in a privileged spot in humanity, and you don't want to be that person that misses the good times and wishes that you could go back in time and redo it.
That's something that we're obviously in our marketing we play on quite a bit. Is this, we're marketing to marketers. It's everyone knows we're in this kind of gold rush that's happening right now, and it's this idea of like, hey, here's the best path. Here's the best knowledge you can kind of acquire in order to do this, and you don't want to miss out on it. You don't want to, it's this FOMO, this idea of you don't really want to miss out on these experiences while they're happening, because
You don't.
you want to make, because and everyone wonders, am I making the most of this opportunity? Am I sharpening my skills in the right way? And I think that's something that people should keep in mind. But speaking about good experiences, this is something else I like to discuss towards the end of the podcast. What are some things besides grinding and building your wealth and spending it wisely? What are some of the things that like float your boat? Like what do you and pot and things like that as well? But what are some things that you sort of like strive for? What are some of the peak experiences that you're out there trying to have on the weekends or when you travel, or like what do you love doing?
Dude, I love just family relationships. I have a beautiful girlfriend who's my fiance now. Well, not if she yet, very soon. I've been with her for 9 years, so it's weird to call her my girlfriend.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like, okay. But I have a great family. So I spend time with just the stuff that makes human beings happy, man. Like family, travel, love to travel. I'm constantly traveling. I love eating sushi, eating well, and I love knowing that I'm creating a real future for not just me, because it's easy to do, but also for like my parents who, I want them to have a comfortable retirement. My in-laws, I actually do like my in-laws. And
Nice. Important.
I try to be a good person, man. I just try to be a good person. And my girlfriend just calls me a chubby happy guy. That's it.
Nice. Well, that's a hell of a persona. I think you should
Yeah.
stick with it. Ronnie, thanks so much for coming on the Robust Marketer today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Connect with me on Facebook, Ronnie Sandlin, or on Instagram, What a Fucking Life, What a Fucking Life,
What a
or
fucking life.
just Google me. I'm easy to find. Come find me, and I'd love to share with you and have you as a part of the community that we have over here.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank
Thanks,
you for the
Ronnie.
opportunity.
Have a happy Halloween.
All right, you too. Take care.
See
Bye
ya.
bye.